So I know it's been a while, too long since I posted anything or recorded. Been very, very busy. I did a recording, but I can't find the memory card right now on my camera while I was in Hawaii. It was a brief one, but I'll try to upload that at some point. So anyway, obviously that does mean I've been to Hawaii on vacation, and that was fantastic. We had very overcast, cloudy days, a lot of rain actually while we were there, but my wife and I still had a fantastic time. As you can tell, today it's April 2nd, and as you can tell, I'm outdoors, and it's pretty beautiful for this time of the year, kind of as it should be, I guess. After a very gray, wet, and fairly cold, windy week last week, we've got temperatures in the 50s today. So I waited a little bit. I was going to run earlier in the morning, but I waited a little bit for it to warm up. And I've been thinking a lot about recently one topic in particular, and that's the topic of authenticity. Authenticity is so important, obviously, for a lot of things, but especially for our relationships, and I think for us to actually find true joy and to really thrive in our own personal lives. So what do I mean by that? Well, I see a lot of people in my clinic from time to time who tell me about fears they have, or doubts they have, insecurities they have, and how it's affecting their relationship, although they don't always see it that way. Maybe it's the relationship with their spouse or their significant other. Maybe it's just the relationship of them to their life and them to themselves, because they're doing things all the time that they don't actually truly appreciate, that they don't actually truly feel passionate about. For some people, it's their job. For some people, it's just a pastime or activity. I was working with one individual a while ago who was volunteering, and she found the people there who she was volunteering with to constantly be meddling and to doing things that weren't really in their descriptions, and it didn't seem like it was coming from a place of purity or a place of good intent, but more a place of ego for a lot of those people, and it was making her job a lot harder, and she was becoming very miserable as an effect. So I kept saying to her, well, this is a volunteer job, and you've tried to address it very directly, so why are you still there? And she felt that she needed to follow through on a commitment she made, but she was suffering quite a bit because at the end of the day, she wasn't authentically happy to be there, and that was affecting everything in her life. There's still other people I've worked with who have had certain desires in their life, or interests in their life that they haven't pursued. People who have had certain careers that they're in, but they're not happy in. And that rings home, I'm sure, for a lot of you, perhaps. And they keep doing it. And they say, well, the money's good, or the benefits are worth it, or I'm afraid of what my life would be if I was to make this big change. It would take a lot of effort and a lot of energy. And at the end of the day, what that means is a person, instead of following their inner truth and what they know they need to do in order to thrive, they're choosing instead to allow themselves to be slaves to their own fear. And it's very easy to do, and it starts with complacency, but at the end of the day, what we do then is we live lives which are less authentic, because we can't express our true selves. And so, to some extent, I think the opposite of authenticity isn't being a liar, isn't inauthenticity, although obviously that's part of it, but it's a life that's just bound by fear. So, how can this affect our relationships? Well, I have people that I work with all the time as well who have, and sometimes I've been this person, who have failed to share something with their significant other because they were afraid how it would affect their significant other. They've been unhappy in some way, or they need help, and they think their significant other can't handle it. This happens all the time when our loved ones are sick or unwell. We find ourselves saying, oh, well, they're really stressed out, or they're already going through enough. I'm not going to let them know how this is affecting me. Or we think, who am I, to be complaining or going on about how negative something might be, or how something is adversely affecting us in our own personal lives, because we see someone else maybe dealing with cancer, maybe someone we have been married to, maybe our spouse has just had a miscarriage, and it's really affecting us as a husband, or maybe in the cancer situation as a husband or a wife, or maybe our parents are going through a divorce and we're grown adults now and we're really upset about it, but we don't want to actually share that with them because we say, well, you know, they're already going through such tough times. Or it could be as simple as we have a really, really bad headache, and yet we know our loved one might have just been laid off, something like that. And we say, well, we need to be strong for them. You know, we need to not let them see our suffering because we're trying to have somehow in our heads more compassion for them because somehow they're already suffering enough. They don't need to take on ours. But the reality is, when we switch that around, when we think of others who know that we're having a bad day, we aren't often bothered if they say to us, yeah, I understand how it feels, and by the way, I'm having a lot of trouble myself. What that does is that allows us to be frail with another individual when we share our weakness with them. We allow ourselves to be frail, we allow ourselves to be vulnerable at the same time. And when we allow ourselves to be vulnerable with another individual, that's a scary thing, but it also means that we're giving that other individual a chance to see the parts of us that many of us walk around always afraid that others might see. In other words, we are giving them a bit more of our authentic selves. So again, when we hide something about ourselves, something that we're going through, a struggle that we're going through from someone else, we do two things. We fail to be authentic with them, right? If my wife thought every day I was extremely happy, although I was actually suffering from depression, if I was really having a struggle just getting out of bed in the morning, and she said, how are you, when she wakes up in the morning? And I said, oh, I'm great, honey, no problem. And I just get up and then I go and I take a shower and I sob in the shower. Obviously that'd be a horrible place to be, but my wife would no longer know the real me. She wouldn't see what's actually going on with me. So she would see a part of me that I've created out of fear, and that part of me would be inauthentic with her. And at the same point, it robs that other person not only of the ability to get to know us in a more honest way, filled with more integrity and more authenticity, but at the same point, it comes from a place of a little bit of arrogance almost. I'm not sure if that's quite the right word, but I keep coming back to it when I try to figure out the right word for it. So feel free in the comments below if you have a better word for this when I describe it other than arrogance. It's a place that certainly lacks humility because it says that we already know how strong that other person is, what that person is capable of dealing with. And by the way, we don't trust them to give us help. Or maybe we don't honor them with the ability to just be an open ear to hear us, to share in our struggles as we share in theirs. So for whatever reason, if it's true in your life that there's a struggle you have, whether it's just today or someday down the line, or if it's a more common thing that you're going through, be honest with yourself about it first and foremost. You know, in a lot of the community that I tend to hang out in, at least I have been in the last year, whether online or in person, these Spartan races, we have an old saying, STFU, and it's Spartan the up. So, you know, like on one hand, it takes a little bit of a warrior spirit sometimes to get up and do something that you're afraid of. So if that's what it takes, that mentality to get you going in a way that's healthy for you, absolutely, Spartan the fuck up. But at the same point, if you think that your frailty means you're weak, it just means you're human, you know? And so far, everyone I've met, I should say at least a lot of good people I know are human. So let's all be humble, be honest, realize we are human, that everyone has struggles, whether you're in extreme depression and you're not functioning well, you have thoughts that you might think are absolutely crazy or psychotic or just strange or signs of weakness, whether you need help from someone doing the chores around your house and you don't know how to ask, or you feel like you've asked 1,000 times and you're just fed up, so you're just trying to push on and do the things that you've been doing even though they're wearing you down. whether it's someone's asked a favor of you and you know they're struggling and you just don't have the energy to give, but you commit to that anyhow, instead of taking those roads that ultimately lead us and others potentially to more suffering, let's try the best we can to take the roads that help us to grow. Doesn't mean they're always free of struggle, but what it does mean is that they lead us towards a more authentic understanding of who we are as ourselves, and also in turn more authentic relationships with others. So that's my 2 cents. My goal was to keep this to about 10 minutes as I did my cool down, and gave me an excuse not to run up this huge hill I've just come up. I just finished about 10 miles today. I had to cut my watch off because the battery was about to die and I wanted to save it, so that's a bummer, but I got about 8.5 or 9 miles in before that happened. So either way, enjoy the view. That is Essex Harbor in Essex, Connecticut. I've never been here, especially from really May on, but even this time of year on, it's a beautiful place. And come here, spend a lot of money, shop local, ignore the big box stores, and spread some love, spread some joy. Take it easy. Peace.